Hello everyone, watch this review here with a look at Mohawk from NECA's Gremlins Wave. Mohawk was introduced in Gremlins 2 as a sort of substitute / replacement for Stripe, who was unable to make it into the sequel due to a rather unfortunate and sudden, also fatal case of death that he suffered in the first movie. But luckily Mohawk was around to pick up the slack, basically as the ringleader of the Mogwai and then later the Gremlins. Although technically speaking, the Brain was also a leader. But other figures available are Gizmo, actually a pretty horrendous looking Gizmo, Stripe himself, Gremlin form, a poker playing Gremlin, and then they have an image of Mohawk over here. I have never understood the logic of saying also available and then having one of the figures that you just bought right here. Especially considering that the rest of the card is basically, a custom card with a big image of the character on it. I don't know. But as mentioned, a little bit of a read up here. It just says that he's the most sadistic and evil of the bunch. But you kind of knew that. I think the Mohawk's kind of a dead giveaway. Well, it's about after midnight, so let's open this package up. One of the cool aspects of the packaging that wasn't immediately visible is on the front of the card behind the figure we do have the movie poster for Gremlins 2. Obviously without all the additional text, but very cool addition. It's just a really small but really cool extra touch. A nice other little touch is the fact that they included a accessory, the vial of spider serum that turns him into Spider Mohawk, which also would have made a really nice figure, and hopefully they will bring that out in the future. But in the meantime, we have the vial, Mohawk, and our dreams. Before we start talking about the Mohawk Gremlin, I think for comparison's sake it'd be cool to bring in a Mohawk Mogwai, and here we go. Isn't he just darling? They're always so cute when they're young before they eat after midnight and hit their rebellious teen stage, at which point they try to murder you and wreak havoc, but, it's all part of growing up. NECA obviously did a very impressive job with the sculpt. There's a lot of detail, good coloring and everything. Articulation-wise, I'm really not as impressed, but they did probably sacrifice a little bit just to keep the sculpt looking good. The one area I have a real qualm with is here at the legs, where you really can't do anything, and then it's pre-posed, but, I guess you do have to sacrifice a little in the name of detail. Now, if you recall from the package, these little fins and stuff weren't on Mohawk from the start. They're included in the back, and they have to be snapped on. It's kind of weird, but there's like a little indent for where they go in, and then there's a deep recessed area where you stick one part in, then the back part, and then I guess just the tension from that area holds the rest in place. It doesn't fit as nicely on the back, though, but, the fins do look pretty decent. And on the whole, it's just a really great looking figure, although, again, I wish it just had some more articulation somewhere, because you can't get it to do a lot, but you can get some kind of menacing poses going on. Now, I guess it's sort of a thing of like growing up or whatever, but as a kid, I absolutely loved Gremlins 2. The first Gremlins was really dark, it was brooding. It had a really, really gallows humor to it. The sequel tossed most of that out of the way to focus really on the cuteness of the characters and the more creature effects. The Gremlins themselves began to look more distinct. It definitely had a more kiddies, more camp-friendly feel, even going from the original Christmas story to a more humorous Thanksgiving story that Billy's girlfriend starts telling. For those of you not familiar with the Christmas story, let's just say it's a warning parable about climbing down chimneys. But, I mean, as a kid, the sequel just had so much stuff that really appealed to younger audiences. It had more colorful characters, the lighting was brighter, the settings were more varied. It basically took place in really well lit areas as opposed to the original, where a lot of it was happening outside and then just really dark settings. And then, of course, you had all the hybrids throughout the movie. You had the gargoyle or bat gremlin. Well, he becomes the gargoyle gremlin later on. Funny story. The vegetable gremlin, not that cool. The brain gremlin, spider gremlin or Mohawk. And then when Gizmo goes to confront him, he dons a little bandana on his head or headband, and then goes for this whole Rambo look to it, where he's like this little bow and then his pencils lit and stuff. Pretty hilarious scene. I mean, as an adult, that shit just pisses the hell out of me, but as a kid, I couldn't help but think, that is really cool. But, I mean, it's sort of a thing that kind of changes, and then as you grow older, you still can appreciate some of the same things you liked as a kid, but you do end up usually appreciating them in slightly different ways at times. But, you know, it's just really cool that after all this time, they're finally releasing more Gremlins collectibles. I guess it's to commemorate the 25th anniversary last year or the year before, but right now Toys R Us still has a ton of these in. I actually picked this figure up back in March, the same time I picked up the Retroaction Lex Luthor, but I like the look of him in packs so much that I left him up on the wall for a while, and then I'm just now opening him up, because it's Movies Month. I mean, yeah, really cool looking figure. Other collectibles currently available are some gizmos that are plush. I think there's a smaller one, then there's a somewhat larger one. This one I think only ran $10. And then, as previously mentioned, WizKids or whatever, which actually is owned by NECA at this point, which is probably why they have the license, put out like this little mini board game with 5 little Gremlin figures and a Gizmo figure. But it's more of a Gremlins 1 thing than a Gremlins 2 thing. But hey, after over 20 years of waiting, it's just great that we finally get some really cool looking Gremlin stuff again. Especially considering that there wasn't like a lot of really outstanding merch available the first time around, although I really like these PVC figures and I wish I'd picked up more of them. But unfortunately, I think I only saw those once, and I think it was like while I was on vacation or something, so it's permanently gone. That was like 15, 20 years ago maybe. Actually, it had to have been like 20 years at this point. But hey, you know, for Gremlins fans of yesteryear and even people today, we do have some really cool figures available that people can check out. So until next time, folks,